You know, most of us grow up thinking we know who our parents are. And then one day we find out there's a whole story we never knew, like Richard Lowy, when he first realized that his father was holding back something so profound, but that was also common at the time. Holocaust survivors didn't talk about surviving or the Holocaust.
A survivor, but I didn't know a survivor of what. People would talk about Auschwitz. Back then, nobody knew what Auschwitz was. We found out later that he was a Mengele twin. What does that mean? You know, it wasn't the days of the internet. You had to go to the library and pull out a book and read some historical, historian's documentary about what happened during World War II. And there was very little known about this in the 70s, and they never talked about it. The survivors never talked about it. They didn't want to burden their children with these stories. Father had the numbers on his arms, and we all knew that he survived World War II, but we had no idea. It's not like the hostages in Israel today, where everything's 24/7 on the news and you're following every detail. And you've seen pictures of them before and after, which are horrific. Back then, nothing. World War II, Normandy, that was pretty much all we really knew about World War II. So I wanted to know more of my father's story as I got older, because some of the information started coming out about the horrors of what happened in this Auschwitz, this place in Poland, hidden in the birch forest, Birkenau. And the more I started digging, the more I started finding out. And then I had a coffee and a peanut butter sandwich with a friend of mine, Shel Piercy, in his kitchen. And Shel, quite frankly, just said, we should make a documentary on your father. And so that's where it began. And we started down this road of wanting to make a documentary.
That idea later turned into a documentary that brought Kalman and Leopold together many, many years later.
That led into convincing my father that the timing was right. And we basically started putting it together. I started talking to Dad, and it wasn't until 1999 when my Auntie Miriam, his twin sister, died. And this was around that time that he now agreed to tell his story. He never wanted to tell his story while his sister was alive. She couldn't handle it. A lot of them were unable to tell or even talk about it, come up with memories. They just wanted to put it as far behind them as possible. And so up until this point, my dad never really spoke about it. So it's these kind of things that are really tragic in someone's memory. And a lot of people try to lock it behind a door, put it away. And I was now coming with a key and saying I wanted to know more.
Wow, unlocking that door between history, memory, the way we see things, the historical and with humility, inaccuracy of many of our memories, and not inaccurate that we know them. We really think they're true, but this is such a hard journey for a subject so profound as this. How did you even begin to write a book about this? I mean, did your father guide you through it, or is it more like piecing together a puzzle? What was the experience of actually receiving this story like?
It was more like a broken mirror,
Mm.
because every piece was like a shard of glass that you had to handle carefully as you worked through trying to put it all together. And the cuts ran deep, the information was horrific, and the stories were profound.